This section is Operations on Real Numbers, which is section 1.2 in your textbook. The essential question for this section is, what are the rules for adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing real numbers? So the rule for adding, if you have the same sign, if the two numbers have the same sign, then you simply add their absolute values and the sum has the same sign as the given numbers. Now, if we have different signs for the two numbers, then we find the absolute values of the numbers and subtract the smaller absolute value from the larger. The sum has the same sign as the number with the larger absolute value. Now let's look at some examples to explain these definitions further. So let's look at an example. Let's say we're adding minus 12 plus minus 8. They both have the same sign, so the absolute value of each is 12 and 8. We add the absolute values, we get 20, and the sum will have the same sign as the two numbers, so our answer is minus 20. Now let's say we're adding minus 17 plus 11. Here, the two numbers have different signs. We take the absolute value of each, so we've got absolute value of minus 17 is 17. The absolute value of 11 is 11. So 17 minus 11 is 6, but the sign will be the sign of the larger absolute value, which is 17, so the answer is minus 6. Now let's consider subtraction. For all real numbers a and b, a minus b is equal to a plus, parentheses, minus b. That is, to subtract b from a, add the additive inverse or opposite of b to a. So now let's look at an example. Let's say we are saying 6 minus 8, okay? So we want to change this to an addition problem and make 8 be the additive inverse, okay? The additive inverse of 8. So therefore it would become So now this is simply what we had before when we're adding two numbers which have different signs. We take the absolute value of each of these, 6 and 8, find the difference, which is 2, and take the sign of the larger absolute value. So my answer comes out to be minus 2. Now let's look at another example. Let's say we're subtracting 4 from minus 12. Well, what do we do here? So remember the rule, we want to take the additive inverse or opposite of 4, which makes it minus 4, and then add the two numbers. So this would give us minus 12 plus a minus 4. Okay, now we're adding two numbers which have the same sign. Absolute value of minus 12 is 12, absolute value of minus 4 is 4. 12 plus 4 is 16. We keep the sign that's the common sign, and our answer comes out to be minus 16. Now let's say you're working a problem that involves both addition and subtraction. So for example, let's say we've got 15 minus 3 plus 5 minus 12. In this case, you work in order from left to right, and if there's any parentheses or brackets, you work inside of those first. But in this case, we have no parentheses or brackets, so we simply go do the subtraction first, then the addition, then the last subtraction. So you can see we initially say 15 minus 3, which is 12. Then we add that to 5, which gives me 17. Then we subtract the 12 from the 17, and we get our final answer of 5. Now, as you know, we talk a lot about using the number line in doing these operations. And often we're asked to find the distance between 2 points on a number line. And if you are asked that question, basically, the way you answer it is the absolute value of the difference between their coordinates, okay? So whatever the distance is, it's the absolute value of the difference between their coordinates. And I'll explain that with an example. So let's say we were asked to find the distance between the points 8 and -4. So if I take the absolute value of the difference between the points 8 and -4, or 8 minus a -4, and take the absolute value of that, I come up with 12. So therefore the distance between 8 and -4 is 12. Now, the rules for multiplying say if the two numbers have the same sign, then the product is always positive. So the product of two numbers with the same sign is positive. So if you have the product of two numbers with different signs, the result is negative. So same sign, the result is positive. Different signs, the result is negative whenever you're multiplying. So regarding division, for all real numbers a and b, where b is not equal to 0, a divided by b is simply equal to a over b, which is also equal to a times, and that's a dot there, times 1 over b. And if I put it into words, that is, multiply the first number by the reciprocal of the second number. Now, extending the definition with positive and negative signs, if the signs are the same, the quotient of two non-zero real numbers with the same sign is positive. So same sign, result positive. Now, similarly, when the signs are different, the quotient of two non-zero real numbers with different signs is going to be negative. So just like with multiplication, different signs result negative, same signs results positive.